One of my favorite parts of the auto shows are the technical displays. So here, I've got Cadillac's new 3-liter V6 twin-turbo power plant that they use in the CT6, among other things. So this is a CT6 version with the GM 8-speed automatic transmission and their electronically controlled all-wheel drive system. What's unique about this system, you can see the front differential, which is over here, is actually bolted to the side of the engine there near the oil pan. So how the system works is it's a normal 8-speed automatic transmission like you'd find in the rear-wheel drive vehicle that takes off the power to the side there, sends it to the front via this shaft where power is distributed through the front differential and out to the front axle. Other technical highlights, twin turbo engine, hot side out, so it's more of a classical design. Wastegate, it's not a VTG style turbocharger. Timing chains on the front of the engine, naturally direct injection. See the exhaust system here, some pre-catalysts glowing in red for dynamic effect with the oxygen sensors mounted. And here we have a top fuel rail dragster. This thing is impressive to say the least. Have you ever seen a catch can that big? I can't even imagine the amount of gas flow that goes through this crankcase. That supercharger belt is huge. It takes more power to turn that supercharger speed than most race engines make. And you gotta love these straps that hold the blower to the top of the engine in case the blower flies off. If it didn't have those straps, that whole supercharger module could blow hundreds of feet in the air and take somebody out into the crowd. Very cool. Good mix of old school technology and new school know-how to get somewhere around 10,000 horsepower out of these engines. Here we've got the Ford Focus RS, all-wheel drive hatch, and sitting next to it is a really cool cutaway of what they call an RDU, or rear drive unit. This is a combination of a differential and a clutch pack that really makes all the magic happen, that separates the Focus RS from other regular hot hatches. This allows the torque vectoring, and this also allows the system to send more than 50% of the torque to the rear axle. The RDU is made by the supplier GKN. Let's take a look around it and I can explain how this thing works. So in a typical rear axle unit, you have your power coming in here from your drive shaft, which is coming from the front of the vehicle. It will go into your pinion gear here, which turns the ring, which is going to actuate on a set of spider gears, which are your differential, and that allows the left and the right wheel to spin at different rates. This car does not have a traditional differential in the back. Instead, it has a solid shaft, which is much like a locked differential. But that kind of setup wouldn't be very driver friendly on sticky surfaces. So to help transfer the torque between the left and the right wheels and take up wheel speed differentials around corners, you have two electronically actuated clutch packs. Those clutch packs serve multiple roles. Not only do they distribute the torque left and right, they also handle the torque split fore and aft. So I'll get to that in a second. But the left and the right torque split can handle normal wheel speed differences around corners, but they can also lock up and perform the torque vectoring functionality that this car has that allows more overspeeding or more torque to be sent to individual wheels on the rear axle to help promote drifting or yaw rate, or in other words, it makes a car more fun to drive. That's what gives it that oversteer, that fun to drive, high performance feeling. How does the RDU send torque forward and backward? Well, this is a typical transaxle add-on based all-wheel drive system, so the front axle is permanently driven. The way they accomplish this is the rear axle actually has a numerically taller ratio than the front axle, meaning if you lifted the car off the ground and spun the wheels or drove the wheels, the rear axle would be spinning faster than the front axle. These clutches, when they fully lock, you'll get maximum torque to the rear. The rear axle will be spinning faster than the front. But on most surfaces, the rear wheels and the front wheels need to spin at the same rate. So in order to accomplish that, these clutches are in a constant state of slip. The more they lock up, the more torque is sent to the rear axle, or the more torque is sent to the left or right side, depending on what they want to do. Dodge proudly has their 6.2-liter supercharged tire smoke generator on display. Basically, these things spin around here, some stuff happens, CO2 and tire smoke come out. That's all you need to know. Another interesting engine on display is Infiniti's 2-liter turbocharged VC turbo or variable compression ratio engine. Taking a look inside this thing, you have your typical piston and connecting rod setup, but the way it attaches to the crankshaft is quite different. So on one end you have the connecting rod, but on the other end you have a second connecting rod which goes down to this rotating shaft. When this shaft here rotates, it changes the kinematics of this little rocker arm here. It can adjust how far the piston goes up towards the cylinder head and changes the volume of the combustion chamber. So when it rotates this way and sends the piston further up, you increase the compression ratio, which can lead to higher efficiency. When you rotate it this way, it draws the piston further down, reducing the compression ratio, which may be beneficial for making more power at times. So there's no single compression ratio that's optimum for all operating points, which is why when you can vary the compression ratio, you can get more power and more efficiency out of the same engine design. So really cool tech from Infiniti. It'll be interesting to see how it works out for them and if other manufacturers follow suit and also look into developing variable compression ratio engines. Here we've got a 2018 F-150 chassis tipped up on its side. Let's go take a look at this. Looks like it's equipped with a 3.5-liter V6 twin-turbo EcoBoost engine. Let's look at some technical highlights. In the suspension, we see a really nice cast aluminum upright here. Nice to see Ford putting some engineering and some semi-exotic materials into their pickup trucks. Driver's side turbocharger here. It's a wastegated design, interesting. It has an electronic actuator to control the turbocharger boost. Here's Ford. Actually, it's a joint venture between Ford and GM. It's the all-new electronic 10-speed automatic transmission. Transfer case hanging off the back here. You can see this drive shaft here sends the torque up to the front axle on a 4-wheel drive equipped pickup truck. Big aluminum drive shaft. Let's take a look underneath. Here we've got Ford's V8 6.7-liter Power Stroke engine. Code name for this engine is the Scorpion. Pretty cool high-tech engine. We've got a hot side-in turbocharger nestled right here in the V. Got some high-pressure fuel pump hardware there. That's the fuel rail. A Bosch 2-piston CP4 fuel pump is buried there in the V. That's directly driven off the front of the engine. Vacuum pump here. Output 440 horsepower and 925 pound-feet of torque. So that's a considerable amount of output. It wasn't that long ago that commercial trucks were only putting out that kind of power. Large EGR cooler. Big crankcase ventilation separator here. Down there to my personal favorite part, the pistons and the piston rings. I actually was on a team to help design those about a decade or so ago. Drift car, look out.